subject of ADHD, which is a diagnosis that has been more like popular in the last years, maybe 10 years. What do you think about this particular diagnosis, and in what way can it be helpful, and in what way can it be damaging, I think?
It can be helpful for people. Sometimes people have another kind of diagnosis, which is not the psychiatric one, which is bad person, or failure, or generally messy, forgetful, lousy person. That's also a kind of diagnosis. That's the label of the diagnosis. And then it might be a good idea to have another label, which is not loaded with negative ideas. ADHD is not loaded with lousy person. So it's another label. And the problem comes when you mistake the label with the content. The label is not the content. The label is a label. And
as a label, it's maybe not a problem to have a label if you know that it's a label? Or?
Well, we have other kinds of labels. We have husband, we have psychologist, we have therapist, we have long-haired person. There are all kinds of labels which not really create problems for us. So if we go lightly on the labels, being aware that they are labels,
and that the same person can have a multitude of labels.
You can have a multitude of
long
labels,
hair
and it's
ADHD
just
the husband.
And the problem is the labeling, and when you mix up the label and the content, that you think you have understood the person. But the diagnosis is simply a label for a constellation of problematic behaviors and emotions. It is not a label on the person. It's a label on these person's problems. If you keep it at that, it's not much of a problem. But people find it very heavy. They think that this is who I am. No, that's not who you are. That's the label for the constellations of symptoms that you have. If the symptoms go away, the label goes away. So it's not a death sentence. It shouldn't be used to sort people. It is misused in that way, to sort people into categories. But it is about categorizing symptoms. And if it's used like that, I don't have much problem with it. But it's very hard to keep it at that level. And it creates all sorts of problems because a lot of these constellations are arbitrary. What is the limit between ADHD and Asperger? What about these people who have half and half of these? Which maybe don't have enough symptoms to qualify for ADHD diagnosis, and not enough symptoms to qualify for an Asperger symptom. So they sort of a mix in between, and there is no name for that. So,
but do you think that there should be an absolute system, and that would be more helpful, or do you think this is a necessity in how language work and how labels work? And you can also say that, there is other socially constructed labels that we put, like husband or lazy or male or female, that is useful sometimes and sometimes makes a problem.
The problem again is that we read too much into it. And in psychiatry we have lots of very clearly defined labels, but very little clear understanding of what is actually going on behind these problems. So it creates an illusion of knowledge, that we know what depression is. But we don't know. we just know how it looks, how a particular thing looks, doesn't know what it is. But it creates an illusion that we know what it is. And when we think we know what it is, we stop thinking. We just look for
So this
the correct.
Stop thinking part is dangerous.
That's the dangerous part. That we stop thinking and we stop searching the wider net of resources that could be helpful. This person gets stuck. And when we get stuck, we cannot move, and when we cannot move, we cannot adapt. So that we go in circles.